Autism, Therians, the Furry Fandom. Hello my friends, it's your favorite certified creature thing, and a topic that's really intrigued me as of late is the correlation between neurodivergence, furries, and Therians. Before I start this video, I just wanted to say that I really appreciate the amount of traction and support that I got on my last video. I genuinely enjoyed reading all of your takes, and I'm so glad that I could entertain you all, because it makes me feel like my work is well worth it. I did, however, want to apologize for the few misconceptions that I'd seen in my comments. I realize that some ways that I worded things can make me easily misunderstood, and I want to encourage that if you happen to not know how to take something that I said, to please ask me for clarification. I highly appreciate direct feedback and questions, as I would much rather not want to be accused of malicious intent when I just chose poor wording or perhaps words that can easily be misunderstood. I'm actively taking the steps to improve and be a more concise creator, and one step towards that is making sure that my words cannot be misinterpreted easily, and that I open myself up to questions regarding clarifications, corrections on possible misinformation, and more. Everything on my channel is done by me. I have no one behind me. I edit, script from scratch, and I record on my iPhone. I'm making my way to greatness slowly but surely. Now how about we get into the topic of the video? So we all know how the furry fandom has gotten its bad rep from the so-called cringe in the fandom. Those furries who bark or howl or crawl on all fours for fun, wear tails or masks in public. But do we ever truly consider a big potential reasoning behind why so many might harbor so much misunderstanding and distaste for the furry fandom or the Therian community? I mean, sure, on a surface level, there are reasonable stereotypes that furries are notorious for drama, and I mean, it certainly isn't pleasing to see drama at every corner you turn. Watching Fluffbutt Uwu 27 and Cutie Foxmaws 18 attack each other online for personal issues that could have been resolved privately is a very, very interesting thing to endure. But on a deeper level, what's so wrong with the harmless side of the fandom? Fundamentally, what is the issue that most people have with furries? Often people think of furries as people who identify as animals, bark at people, or are attracted to animals, when that is simply not the case. The animal identification factor is usually a mix-up of Therians and furries, and this happens due to the prominent overlap between the two groups. Both are indeed harmless and provoke a lot of hatred from those who do not understand, but there are fundamental differences. A furry is defined as an enthusiast for animal characters with human characteristics. In particular, a person who dresses up in costume as such a character or uses one as an avatar online. It's often used as an art form, which is wearing your own creations and playing as a character. A Therian is defined as a person who identifies as a non-human being. They are fully aware of their humanity in its physical form, but every other aspect of them is what they feel akin to the animal that they identify with. Just because you see one Instagram reel about a Therian going out in public with a tail and a mask and doing quadrobics does not mean that that's their entire life, and that's the same in regards to furries. Being a Therian is not the same as lycanthropy or any other form of mental disorder inducing psychosis or hallucinations, as lycanthropy is a rare psychiatric syndrome where a person believes that they have genuinely transformed into an animal, completely unaware that they have a physical human body. Therians can also be furries, but by themselves, they are not furries. You don't need gear or quadrobic skills to be a Therian, just the identification. The two are not the same, but highly associated due to the fact that they both have to do with animals in some way, and anything to do with animal cosplay is always dumbed down as furry material. So, what links the furry fandom and Therians to neurodivergency, or more specifically, very often autism? Well, to be honest, there isn't a direct link or data that I have to further my point. I only know from testimony and observations that a decent portion of furries are on the spectrum. I am no scientist, nor do I have the skills to perform a thorough poll, so this will be based on the conversations that I have personally had and not on legitimate backed data. Full transparency. The autism spectrum is called a spectrum for a reason, so if you are also autistic, please don't take everything that I say as something that you must relate to. We are very diverse as a group. Speaking on that, a trait of mine is that I correlate my own experiences with situations in order to understand them more effectively, and that is something that I will be doing with, the talking points in the video. I genuinely believe that the fandom is a wonderful place to harbor autistic people due to so many different aspects, but there is one main point that I'll piggyback off of. The idea that you can create a character that expresses you when you otherwise might have difficulties doing so is so refreshing. Oh, I need to fix the sprout. Because that's gonna bug me. That's gonna bug me the entire video if I don't fix the sprout again. I think it's okay. Is the sprout looking okay? It's much more easy to express yourself through a character opposed to your physical being for a lot of us, because our reactions can sometimes be unconventional and easily misunderstood, but as a fluffy animal character, you have so much more variety in how you can express your feelings. That goes for the majority of original characters though, not just anthro ones. It's true that taking part in the fandom is honestly an art form. I mean, forever, since art was created, it was used as an outlet to show your emotions. Along with this, the furry fandom is a hub to potentially find friends that you can relate to. There are group chats, communities, and more just dedicated to furries meeting each other. It's much easier to approach a chat room opposed to trying to sniff out furry puns, see what I did there? People who are also furries in person. An example of me expressing myself through this fandom is that I actually stim a lot in fursuit. If you're unaware, stimming is short for self-stimulating behaviors. The term stim is used to describe one of these behaviors, which can include doing an action over and over again, or repeating the same sound several times. Because I'm not a plagiarist, I wanted to say that my explanation that I just read out was by webmd.com. Something that might have been unknown to you is that I often stim heavily in fursuit because I feel more comfortable doing so. It's easy to be an animated animal character and do intense movements repeatedly because people will usually interpret it as just being a part of the character, which it is, however, that's not all it is for me. I made my characters eccentric so that I can jump and bounce around without anybody prying into what my deal is. It's soothing since due to the fact that I do schooling at home and I am medicated by Adderall, I don't usually move around a whole lot until I get out of my medicated phase. I jump, move my paws, I swing my body back and forth quickly to wag my tail, spin, and it relieves so much stress, believe it or not. I was absolutely given a more art-centered mind opposed to an academic one, which plays a part in why I choose to express myself through what is, as I said, ultimately an art form. Stimming, however, isn't exclusive to autistic people, though. It can be something as simple as doing a happy dance when you eat something good, tapping your foot on the ground, and more. I'm sure neurotypical furries find themselves stimming too in some cases. Another potential pull factor is that some autistic people are more likely to connect to animals opposed to people. This point will be connected to both furries and Therians. Others on the spectrum that I've met tend to be either very scared or repulsed by animals, or perhaps the polar opposite, feeling connected to them in almost a soul bond. I just wanted to say, because I didn't put it in the script, that you don't have to be on either extreme, you can be in the middle or leaning more towards one. I just wanted to say that before anybody feels excluded, but I did put that disclaimer at the beginning. Regardless, I just want to say that. When I'm around animals, I feel like I'm one with them, despite being aware that I'm indeed bodily human. I function like a person, speak, work, have interests, do school, intend to have a conventional career, and this can be both from being ostracized from society due to my obscure nature as an autistic person, or perhaps feeling just deeply connected to animals. It can also be a mix. Contrary to the stereotypes of furries, my and others' connection to animals will never, point blank period, mean that we are attracted to animals, nor believe that people should be. A wide majority of furries are against such a concept, and so are Therians. It is highly frowned upon despite the media and its constant exposure to those types of individuals in the fandom. In the case of Therians, identifying with an animal doesn't mean that you agree that you can be that way towards them, and in the case of furries, wearing a costume for fun doesn't mean that you agree that you can be that way to animals either. My next point is that there is so much misunderstanding and distaste for neurodivergent people that most who engage in bullying do not admit to. The wide majority of those who are guilty of this would more than likely say, "Well, I don't bully autistic people, they're autistic, why would I do that?" But in most cases, they haven't considered that there are high-functioning members of the spectrum that are hard to clock or are less obviously autistic that they might find themselves picking fun at. It's very common for people who are lower functioning to be made fun of and most noticed, but it's also quite easy for those who are on a similar end of the spectrum as me to get bullied as well. Because we are less easy to clock in a lot of cases, it provokes an odd sense of anger to people who are just plain out mean and ignorant to understanding it. I often see higher functioning autistic people end up on the r/fake disorder cringe Reddit threads because of this, or on Instagram Reels. As someone who dips my toes into the depths of Instagram Reels, I can say that people are just lovely. I've totally not been told that people want to light me on fire, call me disrespectful words, and say that I made their day horrific when what I did was post about how I hope everyone felt loved because they deserve it, while wearing a fursuit. Anyways, ignoring those bozos. I believe this happens because we're often normal enough to be seen as not autistic, but not normal enough to be seen as normal, and that's a struggle to endure in itself. Now, for my own side and experience with this, I only got diagnosed at 17, so I went most of my life being made fun of and pushed out because no one understood what was wrong with me. It was isolating and sad, and it was mostly because I found the fandom at a young age, expressed myself through it, and was open about it because I didn't know how to mask. It was very much one of the most intense hate furries destroy 2018 furry gamer war type era, where you'd be broken down and shamed for something that was just your self-expression and outlet. I give a pass for children in most cases who are just little and ignorant, but there is a point in aging where you have to pick yourself up and be respectful regardless of if you do not understand something. Just because you don't get it doesn't mean you have to be mean. It's okay to dislike furries, it's okay to think they're cringe, odd, or just plain absurd. It's okay to not understand Therians, it's okay to be put off or have your opinions. As corny as it is to say this in the big 2025, it's not okay to send threats because you don't want something on your page. Block and click not interested, because you're getting more on your algorithm if you comment. I try to be an open book and let people ask me genuine questions, so if you don't belong to either of these communities and would like to know more, please feel free to ask. I can reply and perhaps someone else in the community can reply as well. A lot of hatred comes from just not knowing or finding someone who's within these groups that isn't actively hurting someone. At the end of the day, we all think and feel, we all do daily human tasks, costumes and identification don't change that. People care far too much about things that simply have no backing. We are divided in result of such trivial things in this age. So many desire a position as a heckler when they could be the one basking in the light of the stage, having wondrous moments in their own way, creating history with their passions. Hatred is unavoidable, it is cruel, it is a part of humanity because everyone desires superiority. The possibility of feeling bigger than someone else, anyone else, in any which way that they can make themselves out to be. Not understanding something or caring to even try perpetuates that hatred so often seen. It is so easy to hate on what is not for you when your ears are plugged. We bleed the same blood, we live different lives, but our hearts still beat. Some things are beyond your comprehension or perhaps are just not your style, but in result of that you don't need to be mean-spirited. It is okay, because there are things out there that exist within this world that are just not made for you. As predictable as it is to say this, there is beauty in your obscurity. You may not see it now, but you are going to find strength in who you are in this moment. You don't have to twist and distort yourself for pointless validation that will rid you of the vibrant colors shining within your soul, the ones that seep from you. Why should you ever snuff out the light in your eyes for someone who saw the happiness it brought you and still disrespected it in spite of that fact? Tell me why. Give me a reason why you'd let your heart crumble for someone who never cared to see it soar in the first place. Anyways, despite my serious nature, that wraps up the conversation for today. Thank you so dearly for sitting through everything, and I really just appreciate it. Remember, be cringe, be free, and no matter how alone you may feel, you will always have a forever home with me. Bye, friends! Get this diva off of my screen. There's a person behind the orange thing. Get it out. My hair doesn't look as bad as I thought it would, considering that I literally just took off the fursuit. Does my microphone work? Please, please work, or else I'm gonna, cry or something.